Chapter 2 The Old Dollmaker. Before we begin, children play with a variety of toys. Young girls like to play with dolls. In earlier times, when there were no machines, toys were made by hand by skilled artisans. It would take them a lot of time in shaping, crafting, coloring, and finishing the toys. In the modern times, the art of making toys by hand has lost its importance. Let's read the story of a doll maker who spent most of his life in doll making. There was a gifted old artist who made dolls for the girls in the palace to play with. Every year, a doll fair was held in the palace courtyard. At the end of the fair, it had become customary for all the artisans to honor the old man as the best amongst them. When the artist was nearly 50 years old, a new artist arrived at the fair. His name was Kishan Lal. He was young and he brought a new wave with him. When he made his dolls, he left some of them incomplete and some he did not paint. They looked as though they were finished, as though they'd never be finished. The younger men exclaimed, "The man has shown true daring." The older men said, "This isn't daring, this is impudence." But younger ones had newer demands. The young maidens of this day and age said, "We want those dolls." The old servants accompanying them said, "Bogus!" But that only made the girls more determined to buy the new dolls. Soon, there were no crowds in the old artist's shop. His basket full of dolls stared vacantly like people waiting in vain at the river bank for a boatman to take them across. 1 year and then 2 years went by, and everyone seemed to forget the old man. Kishan Lal was the new king of the doll fair in the palace. The old man was downcast. His income had fallen drastically. Eventually, his daughter came to him and said, "Come and live with us." His son-in-law said, "Eat, sleep, take rest, and just make sure that my cattle don't stray into the crop fields." The old man's daughter was busy in the house all day long. His son-in-law made clay lamps and took cartloads of them into the city. But the old man refused to acknowledge that times were changing, just as he failed to realize that his granddaughter was now 16 years old. When the old man sat in the shade of a tree, guarding the crop fields and dozing off every now and then, his granddaughter often dropped in on him and hugged him from behind. Bliss settled on every chord of the old man's heart. He said, "What is it, dear granddaughter? What do you want?" She said, "Please make me some dolls. I want to play with them." The grandfather said, "Oh no, my dolls will hardly please you." The girl said, "But who can make better dolls than you?" He said, "Why, Kishan Lal, of course." She said, "Rubbish! Let Kishan Lal try and compete." The two of them went back and forth like this again and again, many a time. Later, the old man brought out his materials from the kit bag and perched the big round-rimmed glasses on his nose. He said to his granddaughter, "But dear child, the crows will get at the corn." She said, "Grandpa, I shall see that they don't." The day wore on. The sound of the bullocks drawing water from the tank in the distance floated towards them. The granddaughter chased away the crows as the old man sat and made his dolls. The old man feared his daughter the most. She was very strict, and everyone in the household watched their steps around her. One day, the old man sat immersed in his craft, marking his dolls. He did not see his daughter bearing down on them stridently. When she came upon him and called out, he took the glasses from his nose and stared at her in naive surprise. His daughter said, "The cows have to be milked, and you keep Subhadra here the whole day. She's a big girl now. Isn't she too old for dolls?" He spoke in haste. "Why should Subhadra play with them? I am going to sell these dolls in the palace. When my Subhadra's groom comes, I need to place a garland of gold coins around his neck. I want to save up some money for that." His daughter was impatient. "Who will buy these dolls now?" The old man hung his head in shame. He sat there speechless. Subhadra shook her head and said, "I'll see how they won't buy Grandpa's dolls at the palace." 2 days later, Subhadra brought a pile of gold to her mother and said, "Here, the money from selling my grandpa's dolls." Mother said, "When did you get these?" Subhadra said, "I sold the dolls in the palace." The old man beamed with pleasure as he said, "And this is when your grandpa can't even see too well and his hand shakes while painting." His daughter was happy and she said, 16 of these gold coins and we can thread a necklace together for Subhadra." The old man said, "Consider it done." Subhadra wound her arms around her grandfather's neck and said, "Grandpa, there's no problem about my groom either. With you here." Her grandfather laughed as he wiped away a tear from his eye. The old man felt his youth coming back. He sat under the shade of a tree making dolls as Subhadra chased away the crows and the bullocks drew water from the wells in the distance. One by one, 16 gold coins were strung together and the necklace complete. Subhadra's mother said, "Now all we need is a groom." Subhadra whispered in the old man's ear, "Grandpa, my groom is ready." He asked her, "Tell me, granddaughter, where did you find this groom of yours?" Subhadra said, "The first day when I went to the palace, the sentry asked me what I wanted. I said I wanted to sell dolls to the princess. He said these dolls had no use in these modern times, and he sent me back. A man saw me crying. He said, 'Hand me those dolls. I'll give them a new look and they'll all be sold.' Grandpa, if you approve of that young man, I am willing to marry him." The old man asked, "Where is this young man?" The granddaughter replied, "There he stands, under that tree." The youth walked into the room. The old man said, "But this is Kishan Lal." Kishan Lal touched the old artist's feet reverently and said, "Yes, it's me." The old man drew him to his heart and said, "My son, one day you snatched away the dolls from my hands, and today you've come to take away the doll of my heart." The granddaughter hugged the old man and whispered in his ear, "Grandpa, you too are coming with us."